incredible changes we've experienced and survived. And yet even greater changes are still to come.
Are you ready?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Media. Today we're talking about 28 years later, The Bone Temple. And I'm going to say this right up front, this is a zombie movie that largely forgets it's a zombie movie. Now, I don't necessarily mean that as an insult, but it perfectly sums up how I felt walking out of the cinema. I liked this movie more than the previous one, and yet I still came away feeling slightly unsatisfied, so let's get into why. My biggest complaint about the previous movie was that it felt like two movies stitched together. One story wrapped up, then halfway through another one begins, and it never fully recovers from that tonal shift. Thankfully, The Bone Temple stays in its lane. This time the film follows two groups at the same time, and structurally that makes all of the difference. On one side we have the Jimmy cult, led by Jack O'Connell's Sir Jimmy. Running alongside that is Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ralph Fiennes, and the alpha infected Samson, portrayed by Chi Lewis Parry, an infected that Dr. Kelson attempts to control by shooting him up with morphine to keep him calm. Both narratives unfold side by side and eventually arrive at the same destination in the third act. It's cleaner, it's more confident, and structurally it works far better than the previous film. It's also worth noting that this sequel is not directed by Danny Boyle. Nia DaCosta takes over here, but it was filmed back to back with the previous movie, which helps explain why it feels connected while still making some different creative choices. Here's where my biggest problem comes from. For a movie set in a zombie apocalypse, there are hardly any infected. And yes, technically these are not zombies in the traditional sense. They're living people infected with a rabies-like rage virus. But semantics aside, this is still a 28 movie. Other than Samson and the odd straggler in the woods, the infected are mostly absent. And while the film focuses heavily on human conflict, which can absolutely work, I found myself missing that constant, unpredictable threat that defined the earlier films. I was never bored, but I was never scared either. There is one sequence that reminded me exactly why this franchise works when it's firing on all cylinders, and that is the barn scene. It's ugly, uncomfortable, and tense in a way that slowly creeps under your skin. Watching Sir Jimmy's gang torture people in that enclosed, filthy space brought back memories of the raw, unpolished fear of 28 Days Later. There's no spectacle to it, no style, just cruelty, panic, and inevitability. What makes that scene stand out is how restrained it is. It doesn't rely on constant chaos or jump scares. It just lets the horror sit there, breathing, daring you to look away. And for a brief moment, the film feels genuinely dangerous again. This is why it lingered with me long after the credits rolled. Not because it was entertaining, but because it reminded me what this series is capable of when it leans into fear instead of ideas. In the previous movie, Alfie Williams, Spike, was the breakout star, and essentially the emotional center of the story. So I assumed this sequel would continue his journey, but the movie mostly forgets him. Spike is present throughout the film, but he has very little to do, which is disappointing considering how important he felt before. It's an odd creative choice that makes the story feel like it's drifting away from its own foundations. On the positive side though, Jack O'Connell is excellent as Sir Jimmy. Charismatic, manipulative, and unsettling. Ralph Fiennes delivers a quietly brilliant performance as Dr. Kelson, and Erin Kellyman is very strong as Jimmy Inc., a member of the Jimmy Gang who begins to doubt Sir Jimmy's stories and starts looking out for Spike, adding some much needed emotional grounding to the movie. Unfortunately, most of the supporting cast is fairly forgettable, not because of bad performances, but because the film doesn't invest any time in developing them. One of the most interesting ideas in the film, and this is in the trailer, I double checked, so this is not a spoiler, is Dr. Kelson's belief that the infected may be suffering from extreme psychosis, seeing things that aren't there, which is why they attack. He believes the rage virus could be curable, and this leads to a genuinely strong scene between Dr. Kelson, who's an atheist, and Sir Jimmy, a self-proclaimed religious figure, debating the nature of the infected. Are they sick? Are they damned? This philosophical clash is one of the film's strongest elements, and something I wish it explored further. The movie still delivers on gore. For the first time in the franchise, we actually see the infected eating a human, not in a brain-hungry zombie way, more out of necessity. It's graphic, unsettling, and a smart evolution of the infected behaviour. But again, moments like this are fleeting. The shock value is there, the brutality is there, but the sustained horror is not. I really loved the ending of this movie, which is a complete reversal to how I felt about the previous film's ending. Quick side note, there are no kickflips or acrobatics in this movie, which I was very relieved to see. The ending here feels earned, emotional, and confident, and the inclusion of John Murphy's In the House in a Heartbeat was perfect. For me, that track is part of the soul of this franchise, and hearing it again genuinely hit hard. It ended on a high and left me feeling optimistic about where the story could go next. Aaron Taylor-Johnson does not reprise his role, which at first I felt was odd, but since the film shifts away from Spike, it does make sense. Still, the movie feels unfinished. What happened to the baby born from an infected in the previous movie? Why isn't that addressed at all? And surely Aaron Taylor-Johnson's character is out there looking for his son. Danny Boyle has said that if this film performs well enough, there will be a third and final movie, and I really hope that happens. Bring back all of the characters from the ending of this film. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean, and give the series a proper, satisfying conclusion. Overall, I think 28 years later, The Bone Temple is a slight improvement over the previous movie. It has a stronger structure, some excellent performances, and genuinely interesting ideas. But it still lacks the relentless horror that made 28 Days Later so special. So I'll leave you with this question. Is this franchise about zombies anymore, or about us? I'm giving 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple a 3 out of 5. Some strong ideas, good characters, but not enough infected violence. If you've enjoyed this review, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more weekly reviews, and let me know in the comments what you thought of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.